Okay, hello, and let's talk through the problem statement. All right, so just to orient you as to where this falls in the proposal, it's right after the agency information section. Remember, as you submit this draft, you want to also include the proposal checklist so that you get full points with 2 students having checked and initialed each line. All right, here's the required information in the problem statement. So first, you're going to have an overview of the problem and the population that you're serving and some national stats on the prevalence and trends. Then you're going to go into risk factors that contribute to the problem, keeping in mind the ones that your EBP focuses on. Then you're going to go into protective factors related to the problem. Again, kind of making sure you emphasize the ones that you're going to be changing through your EBP. And then you're going to highlight your theory of change that clearly summarizes the risk factors that you're reducing and the protective factors that you're increasing and what it is you're hoping to change. So additionally, this is your most heavily cited section. You'll be hopefully using a lot of the material that your group came up with in your research briefs. So I would say the person who's taking lead on this section, or the people taking lead on this section, want to have access to everybody's research briefs so they can kind of cherry pick the best information from those and incorporate it into this section. And then this is going to link directly into later your goals and objectives and your methods section. So you're building the framework, or the foundation, I should say, for what your goals are and the program that you're using to meet those goals. Lots of good resources. Again, make sure you check out the workbook, the research briefs, and any articles that people collected. So again, save those PDFs and pass them along to the person writing the problem statement. There's a nice library handout on how to research the problem. Again, the sample proposals in the proposal checklist. So as I mentioned in the requirements, the problem statement is essentially starts with the prevalence and then moves to risk and protective factors, and then your theory of change as it relates to your evidence-based program. So you're really trying to set the framework for your grant proposal by kind of building a sense of the magnitude of the problem, that it matters, and how you're going to go about changing it. Okay, so first you're going to basically define the problem on the national stage. So orient us to the issue, the population, and then give us some national stats. You're trying to kind of demonstrate some expertise on the problem. Okay, so your sample first paragraph of the problem statement could be first an introduction of the topic or problem. So here it's older adulthood, emotional well-being, why it's important. Then we get more into some specifics, rates of depression, why that's problematic, what it leads to. Again, lots of nice research here. And then a call to action, like we need to address this in order to, not continue to have these issues or these problems. When we get more into the next paragraph on risk and protective factors, now you're going to be first covering, what are the things that increase the risk of depression, like social isolation or deteriorating physical health, for example. It'll all depend on what problem you're solving. So you can mention a number of them, but you want to keep your focus on the ones that your evidence-based program addresses. So the theory of change is, how it is you're going to solve this problem using your evidence-based program, which is generally reducing risk factors and increasing protective factors. So you might imagine that we have a problem that has a number of protective factors and risk factors, and maybe you've summarized a few of these, but your evidence-based program really just focuses on increasing 2 protective factors, like increasing social support, increasing exercise, access to resources, and decreasing stigma associated with mental health, right, would be a risk factor. So yes, that I kind of mentioned that already. And then this would be an example for PEARLS. You'll also see this in the workbook, that, for example, PEARLS is focusing on decreasing depressive symptoms, increasing social and physical activities, and problem solving. And so what that might look like here is the problem is the issue is emotional health in older adults. And even though there's a number of different things contributing to that issue, your program, in this case PEARLS, is focusing on just a few risk and protective factors that we really want to make sure we emphasize. Because what's going to happen is when we get to the goals and objectives, I should see that you have objectives related to decreasing depressive symptoms, increasing social engagement, increasing physical activity, and increasing problem solving. Okay, so this would be a sample second paragraph there, an overview, a statement about risk and protective factors, then a summary of those, and then a clear mention of your evidence-based program and the risk and protective factors that you're specifically targeting. And again, there should be a sentence there that just really leads into your later goals and objectives. So you're probably wondering, how do I know what evidence-based programs what the risk and protective factors my evidence-based program focuses in on? And so you may have discovered some of that from the EBP investigation worksheet if you did it on this program, but you can be going to their website and then looking up journal articles that use the evidence-based programs, and you can see what in the measures section, methods section, you can see what measures they're using, which tells you what things they're trying to change, either increase or decrease. The library handout will also give you some guidance. Okay, so just remember, you're going to keep your eye on, you're going to stay focused. Keep your eye on the prize. You can't address everything in one program or proposal, and so you're going to focus in on a selected amount of risk and protective factors. Here's kind of how you end up articulating your theory of change within the problem statement. So first you explain how the problem is affecting the population, then you give an overview of risk and protective factors, then you narrow in on the ones that you're going to be focusing in on, and then in assumption 4 you tie that to a specific evidence-based program, and then kind of clarify how you're going to be kind of increasing and decreasing those. This section doesn't stand in isolation. Your theory of change basically underlies your whole proposal. It's going to inform all the sections that come after this. So the more clear you are here, the easier the rest of it will be. And it'll be very important to stay consistent with this section in future sections. Okay, so one thing I'm going to be driving home throughout this process is to really work on concise writing. So and this is a change for a lot of HDFS students because they're trying to get to a word count or they're trying to get to a page limit, and so more is better, or saying it kind of in a formal fancy way is better. Whereas what I'd really like to see is that you can say it as clearly and succinctly as possible. So I'm unlikely to take off points if you don't meet the 1/2, for example, page approximation. I'm more likely to take off if you've gone over and it's pretty wordy. All right, so let's get an example. Okay, so this is drawn from a former group's problem statement. When a child or adolescent's adverse childhood experiences increase, meaning they experience more than one traumatic experience, it's highly likely they would experience negative outcomes in regard to their mental and behavioral health. So just glancing at that, it looks like there's some words that we probably don't need, given maybe what's come previously, although it could depend. And we could really try to simplify things down to say, the more adverse childhood experiences, the higher likelihood of negative behavioral and mental health outcomes. Okay, so please reach out if you have questions, stop by office hours. I'm glad to look over drafts.